Hello,
Whoa.
hello. Welcome to our special episode of Labs Talk. It's special in a number of ways. Actually, first of all, we're recording this on the 18th of June 2024, and it's special because it's the first episode that we're recording from our new office in Garching. That is part of the SAP Labs network, and it's special because Sven is remote this time. He's in Copenhagen. Hi to
Hello.
Copenhagen.
Hello,
Hope you're doing
hello.
fine.
Hi to Copenhagen.
And it's particularly special because we have a very, very special guest. We have Clas Neumann. He's Senior Vice President and he's the global head of SAP Labs. We understand you're a professor at DUT, Dalian and Tongji University in Shanghai. And
you met the chancellor, right?
yeah.
Is that true?
That is also
Wow.
true. I met Olaf Scholz just last month in Shanghai also and gave him an overview about what's happening in China right now.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
And in our research, we figured you will also meet Minister Habeck, the Vice Chancellor, and Minister Wissing. That's yet to come. Did we get that right?
That's correct. Yeah, just the coming weekend.
Okay.
I will meet Minister Habeck on Saturday and also give him a speech, also show him an SAP product, by the way. And Minister Wissing also will visit SAP Labs in Shanghai, and we have a bit more time with him to showcase him a little bit what innovation from China means.
Okay, awesome. But
Very cool.
let's take a small step back. First of all, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time for being with us here today. But to tell our audience a little bit, Clas, tell us a little bit about yourself, and after that, maybe a few words about the role that you have, that Senior Vice President and Global Heads, about yourself and what is it that you do in that role.
Yeah, thank you very much. And indeed, I'm in this role already for a couple of years. I'm with SAP. I have to admit, nearly 3 decades, but nearly 25 years also now in Asia. So I've been starting our labs in India. So that then I lived for 12 years in India, did different engineering roles, also by design and others. And then I moved to China. And now I live since, more than 12 years also in China already. So that's pretty cool. It's also a nice place to live. I live in Shanghai. And from there, I have, sometimes dual roles. It depends a bit. I run the SAP Labs network. I come to this in a second. But I also engaged in certain strategic projects that have to do often with the development of China also as a market for SAP.
Okay,
Very
awesome.
cool.
Labs network.
Sorry, you just
Sven.
mentioned the Labs network, and this just did bring up a question for me, because I'm here in Copenhagen right now, and I was wondering if this actually belongs to the Labs network. So what belongs to the Labs network, to the SAP Labs network, and what doesn't actually? What's the difference?
Yeah, the Labs network currently has 21 labs in 17 countries. Denmark and Copenhagen is not part of it. Usually we have a certain critical size of a lab, 400 or 500 engineers to make it a lab. And we have created a couple of hubs out of some of the labs, like Eastern Europe, Southeast Europe, and then others like China, India, Germany are a hub by itself. But I believe we are basically in all countries where, okay, now you're in Denmark, but I think we are in many countries where we have really a lot of startups, a lot of innovation happening across the globe.
So just to summarize that's innovation and technology is the center for SAP Labs. And I need to assume there's some differentiation now that we're in Munich today. Is there something that we can focus on that we bring to the world from this location?
I mean, in our labs, we do SAP's software engineering. So all of our products are engineered inside the labs, or the vast majority, let's put it this way. In Munich, for example, Munich, we are here inside the TUM campus. So we would like to collaborate and innovate together also with TUM students, with the Unternehmertum, with the startups. This place in Germany has also a very strong focus on engineering, on manufacturing. So we also try to bring more of those topics here.
Okay, awesome. Now that you live in China and lived in many other places in the world, one question that we naturally came up with is there some sort of cooperation? Is that intrinsic to the SAP Labs that labs cooperate together across continents, across countries? Is this something that's part of the lab's strategy or the lab's approach?
I would even say that makes SAP overall unique across the IT industry. No other major global IT company has so many different hubs to do their software development. And from the beginning onwards, we build on this cross collaboration. It also makes sense because innovation is done differently in different parts of the world, right? In India, colleagues tend to go a bit quicker on and start maybe earlier. It's a bit of a try and error. In Germany, you really think first about many aspects and plan it in a deeper, but then sometimes maybe don't even start. So both approaches are very valid to get to innovation. Both approaches lead to patents, to great products. But when we combine it, it makes the secret sauce of SAP's products.
Okay, sounds good. One topic, Sven, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. It's a bit tougher when I'm remote, but so you already gave us a little overview of the Labs network, but maybe you could come back to that again. So how many engineers do we have around the globe, and are we basically really literally once around the globe with the Labs network? And I mean, yeah, can you elaborate a bit actually how many engineers we have and what are the different focuses, I would say, of the different labs?
Yeah, we have 45,000 engineers across all these labs, and this quite a substantial amount of engineering capacity and power, I would say. And indeed, we don't do everything everywhere. We have a few hubs like Germany, like India, where we can basically do everything, because we have like 10,000 plus colleagues there, and they're more or less in all of the product areas. But others are very, very focused also. Take Israel, where we do predominantly business technology platform. Take Korea, where we do basically a database, or Singapore, where it's focusing a lot on AI, on core AI. And it makes also sense because if you grow in some areas deeper expertise, you can also give colleagues better career opportunities, and also the whole center stands for something, has a vision, has a mission, right? So therefore, we run both approaches. We have also customer-centric labs. I just came now from the board meeting with SAP Japan, with the leadership team there, not only from the lab, also from the field, where we discussed how we bring manufacturing software forward, what we do in Industry 4.0 in innovation, and how we bring the customers stronger into our engineering, because Japanese customers are leading in manufacturing and in digitalization of their manufacturing.
Very cool. So we're really trying to get the best from all of these different labs and these different cultures also, actually, that we unite with SAP this way. Very cool.
That's absolutely right, yeah.
Excellent. So should we come to the topic of AI?
I guess
pleasure.
it's inevitable. It's
AI,
the dominating topic. Let's and you touched that already. That in particular Singapore, you mentioned there's a big focus on AI, but let's make it a more generic question and tie it back to the Labs network as such. What is SAP's? Can you talk a little bit about SAP's strategy to develop and innovate in AI, and how does the Labs network hubs and centers support that strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do so, Andreas. I think the key 3 words everybody should know about SAP's business AI strategy are, of course, it needs to be relevant and reliable and responsible. And that is also very much linked in why we do it in different parts of the world. Reliable, I think you could say, that's about that the information should be there. You can do this everywhere. That is more core engineering also. How do I retrieve information through AI? But take responsible. What is ethical AI? What are those ethical standards? How do we think about AI, what it should do and should not do? This is certainly different in different parts of the world. So there's no one single ethical global standard for AI. Now, AI, therefore, is a new technology, different from, let's say, cloud, big data, and other things. It has biases, right? And therefore, we need to work with that. And those biases are also different in different parts of the world. And we should definitely try to have a more or less bias-free AI software, hopefully for business AI, completely bias-free. But for that, it makes a lot of sense to do it in different parts of the world, because certain things may only be detected by engineers in certain parts of the world. So this is one important point. The other one is, of course, AI is very diverse if you think about where the research also happens. Two big centers right now are United States and China, where nearly 80% of all publications and research papers come from there. And then there's Europe, but there's also Israel, there's Singapore, which are smaller but very specialized hubs. So we would like to include the knowledge from different parts of the world to form also the best possible AI software.
One question just following that thought is it's not just the ethical standards that are different across the globe, but also the approach to engineering. I guess Germany is kind of well known. It's a stereotype probably, but German engineering and the way we look at things, things are very exact, and we pay attention to detail as Germans. That's the stereotype, and those things are different across the globe. Does that approach, that perspective towards engineering, play a role, bringing together all the engineers from different parts of the globe? Does that as such improve innovation?
It does a lot. I sometimes say, in my role when I was running the engineering for BYD, Business by Design, we had at that time, I had teams in Germany, in China, in India. And when I came with a new idea, I wouldn't have even finished talking about the idea when my engineers in India would already say, hey, I know how to start this, and I have a cool idea how we go there, and so on. And when I brought the same idea to my teams in Germany, I would first hear 10 good reasons why this cannot work. Right? Now, as I said, it's a bit cliche, right? But also it's important that we think from both of these perspectives, and that we bring this then in the end together. The speed of engineering in Asia, of China, India, other places, but also the deep thinking, the different way to look at things, and also, of course, the more critical approach sometimes we have in Germany. I mean, Germany wouldn't be such a strong export-oriented country if not the engineering quality would be super high. But in software, I believe it's really the global view, right? Because software is global. Our product needs to work and run across the globe. And therefore, it would anyway not work that we just think our software through in one part of the world and then distribute it across the globe. That is certainly something we have learned early.
Let's just, for the sake of sticking to the questions we prepared, but you basically gave the answer already. But when we did prepare for our interview, we came up with that question just to be a bit provocative. Why don't we just do everything here in Munich in this new shiny building that we have? We look well prepared. Why is it not just the single AI center of competence or something?
Yeah, indeed. Partially, I gave the answer to this question. The other part is also the larger one location grows, the more bureaucratic it gets, and the slower somehow also it gets. To have a number of rather agile setups is definitely better. I mean, we are also here in Munich because we believe in Munich, right? We had an acquisition here, we integrated it. And I think it's important. We are also in Berlin. We are in Dresden. We have not put everything into Waldorf because we believe also in the agility of locations and also in the routing this into the network, right? Into the local ecosystem. Yeah, the ecosystem in Munich is different from Berlin, from Dresden, and from the Mittlerer Neckarraum.
And just this reminds me actually of another question that we had actually. So these days, it's especially when it comes to China, right? We have a lot of political discussions of how we can actually have a mutually beneficial relationship, with other countries, with other cultures, I guess, and with other styles of working, for example. So when it comes to AI and software development, what do you think is the most important thing that you also as a labs manager undertakes to really make sure that we have a mutually beneficial relationship here, and that there's no one winner basically and one loser in the end, basically, when it comes to working together?
That's a good question, Sven. And I believe what I try to do is to create excitement together, right? So that also successes are shared, and also the openness with everybody. Hey, there are also cool ideas in other places of the world. I mean, with every big topic, right? Whether it was cloud computing or big data, many of the locations said, I'm now the cloud lab or I'm the big data lab and so on. And right now, everyone is, of course, has very cool AI ideas and so on. That's also good. Yeah. But I think more...
think big there in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
I changed my t-shirt too, by the way. Did you realize that?
Yeah. It's true. Now it is AI. Fantastic. I still need one of those t-shirts. So, but it's really true that the openness for one another is a very important point. You know, when we started to go to India at the very beginning, that was my main job, to make engineering made in India being accepted in Waldorf, which was the center of the universe back then. Yeah, we had Waldorf, we had Palo Alto, a small, somehow cool thing. And then we started all of a sudden India, right? And that was a big cultural change in Germany also. I brought basically all of the Indian colleagues to Waldorf, integrated them into the teams, but also into the families of our engineers. And we even created India weeks in Waldorf, Indian food at the canteen, Bollywood nights, etc., to also culturally connect colleagues and create that openness. Today, we can't afford this. We cannot bring 10,000 people from one location to the other. But now it's also more rooted in our DNA, this kind of openness. And also young people today at universities from the very beginning have students from around the globe. I think in every also German university, you have a very global mindset meanwhile.
Speaking about this global mindset and cultural differences, you mentioned you live in China, you lived a long time in India. Let us take the opportunity and seize that opportunity really to ask you that question for your personal experience. What are the differences? What are the challenges culture-wise living in China now that you're there for 12 years?
Yeah, now China, of course, is a very different country, the way it's run and governed, as everyone knows. It's also very organized. It's definitely very rule-based also. So in that way, it's a bit closer to Germany than India would be to Germany, right? So that is something one can certainly say. Overall, the culture is also very family-oriented. Yeah, so... And it's also, in a way, inclusive, right? So in that way, we have also Chinese friends, and one can go out and so on. There is a bit of a separation in China that, for example, the children, international children, have to go to international schools, and Chinese children have to go to Chinese schools. And also at the German chamber, we can only have German companies become members. So there's a bit of separation also happening there on that side. But overall, I have to say, at SAP, with the colleagues, it's a really very positive environment. What drives me every day is, of course, we have young colleagues, and in China, everybody is eager to test out new things. People are very technology savvy and really like to try out everything that is new. Yeah, so one has to really take care not to fall behind.
That's an excellent bridge to the next question, right? So how does China as a whole really look at technology? You mentioned everybody's open to new technologies, but how does that manifest basically in everyday's life? Does it mean Apple brings out a new product, the next day everybody's experimenting with that at work? Or how do you notice that?
Yeah, Apple or Huawei bring out new products, right?
Yeah.
It is,
or Google, or
they're
SAP.
of course, and really the Chinese companies as well as individuals alike really try to test out every single new technology. I mean, Shanghai, we had, when I came 12 years ago, mobile payment was already the predominant payment standard, right? Today, of course, we have it across the globe. I also see that autonomous driving together maybe with the US, but those two countries will also push this forward and make it really happen also large scale beyond the current pilot zones you have maybe in San Francisco or you have in Anting close to Shanghai. Yeah? But I believe many technologies, it's just understood that our world moves forward when we are faster adopting technologies. And people are more maybe risk takers also, right? So they love to take risks and say, okay, I try that out. It may not be completely done yet, but I'm also would like to see what's happening. So that
I would assume this also applies to AI then, right? So it means when it comes to building AI models, they're built faster and with less, I would say, with less consideration of privacy, maybe even. Or how is that in this case?
Yeah, I would say 7-8 years ago, privacy considerations really didn't matter too much in China personally, but also from the legal framework around it. Since 2 years, China also has a privacy law, and that's also strictly followed. And that, of course, has also started to give a certain mind change across everybody. Everybody understands today that private data is something that has a value that probably one shouldn't give so freely away. But so you see both trends right now. Yeah, the privacy law in China is similar to the GDPR law, to the privacy laws in Europe, I would say. So on the legal side, they have kind of aligned to a kind of a global standard, if you wish. But on the other hand side, it's still simpler. Let's say when I use a mini app on WeChat, the major platform on mobiles, it just takes my already existing data then from the mobile phone, right? I just have to give one click agree, and then all my data is with the new provider. So one has to make sure that one understands what that click means.
What really happens.
That's something we don't have in that way, for example, in Germany.
Okay. Well, very interesting indeed. But only to take that question a little bit further, now that there is a different perspective in China and there's different perspective in Europe, is there an opportunity in particular for us here, for SAP, to export something to China or vice versa, to import something from there to technology-wise or product-wise to improve what we have to offer?
Absolutely. As I said, regulation is not always bad. If you take the regulative side, right, I spoke a couple of times with Chinese regulators, with people who are responsible for that part of the IT in China, and they wanted to learn from the experience companies have in Europe. How does it work? What's the limitations? How slow do things get, and how costly is it for companies? So they want to learn from this. So before they implement such a law, they would definitely listen to many people. At the same time, I give you a concrete example. In Shanghai, we have a very cool app, which is our lunch app at SAP Labs, where everybody on a WeChat app can go to more than 100 restaurants outside of the company and pay with that SAP app, which we created. And then it's directly booked against your cost center in the SAP system.
Okay.
So it was the cool. Software itself and the adoption, that was probably just a few days. But it took another 3 months to convince our data security colleagues here in Germany that this can be done in China and that it does not jeopardize or violate any laws. But for example, such a cool thing, if we have it compliant running here also, would also be a huge benefit in many other locations across Europe.
Let's go into that compliance thing for a second. Now that we touched regulation in China, how they're adopting the ideas of GDPR, is compliance, is regulation possibly a basis, a reason, an opportunity for global compatibility for SAP where regulation would open a bigger opportunity for us?
I mean, SAP is one of the very few companies that even can run global businesses for customers really across the globe, because we are deeply rooted into the different ecosystems. And we also understand these regulations. Cross-border data transfer will be one of the main issues in the future, if you wish, because data, it was always said, is the new oil. But data, the access to data will be more and more restricted, specifically in the field of AI. You see it already today that the scraping of websites is getting reduced because nobody wants these LLMs to take data from everywhere and create cool content and sell it, right? So therefore, how to get to the data, what type of data you can transfer between countries, that's also core knowledge of a company. And our customers, they asking us currently a lot of questions. So how do we do this? How do we do our enterprise architecture? How do we run our data distribution to be compliant, but still have the value of our global data? And that's very complex, and only really a very few company, SAP being one of them, can really do that.
No, and that's awesome. Just to add to that picture that data is the new oil, I guess regulation is the one thing that prevents the oil spill after all, right? That's really the to make this picture complete. Thank you for your perspective. Only to make this a little bit more round, I guess, Sven, let's move on one column.
Exactly. So I thought we spoke quite a bit now about China and how China and Europe maybe works together and how it relates to AI and technology in general. And then there's, of course, the other big player, which is the US. So how do you see actually the role of the US, and how do the different styles of dealing with technology and maybe also specifically around AI differ when it comes to the US?
Yeah, the US is getting most of the private investment from across the globe, but also from within the US into AI. Or in other words, if you see the investment buckets in different countries, then there's the US, which has a really huge bucket. It's 8 times bigger than the next country, which is China. And then everybody else really follows in very small brackets there in terms of investment that goes. So you see the US is by far the most attractive place currently for private investment being invested into AI and related technologies. That's a huge advantage. And you see, of course, therefore also lots of innovation coming out of this. In the US, the power is indeed, from my perspective, with a few really big global firms who are also owning their large language models. And that's a bit different, for example, from China, where also LLMs are developed and published by universities. We don't see this so often in the US because of the resources it requires, meanwhile, right? So it's enormous monetary computing resources. Only a few companies have really the access to that type of resources. And they now, naturally monetize it also. Also, the US has probably an advantage that it's can have regulations really on city limits. On my last visit, I was driving with a Waymo car autonomously 2 times through San Francisco. It's a very cool experience, right? And they can do it because the city of San Francisco can decide on this. The city of not even Waldorf, leave alone Munich, could make such a decision because we have national laws that regulate traffic and all of that. So therefore, this kind of state power also and city power in technology today gives also certain advantages to a country like the United States. There's no doubt about it. So I
just realized AI was playing tricks on us, right? I saw a couple of thumbs down.
Yeah, that's
thumbs up.
Apple
Actually,
AI does
maybe
that.
we can also do this now, actually, right? So, so I think this was not intentional. I just wanted to let everybody know that we didn't. The moment you said the US, think about thumbs down. Actually, no.
No, that was pure coincidence for our audience.
Just playing tricks on us,
But maybe that's really the opportunity to close that topic with AI and hand over to your topics, Sven. Just also
my favorite topic. I mean, I'm here in Copenhagen right now for the Nordic Blockchain Conference. When we air this will be in the past, right? But from my perspective right now, it's going to happen the next 2 days. Super exciting. So I would have a couple of questions also when it comes to another once hyped topic, I would say. Maybe we can still call it trend. It's definitely some interesting technology. What about blockchain, Web3, and NFTs in China? So does crypto play a role in China, or not anymore, or not at all?
Yeah, I think crypto. I would say the mining of bitcoins, of course. China was the center of it. Yeah? You had originally up in the mountains in the Himalayas, people were building up close to the rivers, lots of very small centers with PCs basically and very small servers, but the electricity coming for free from these little rivers. And when you were traveling there from the Himalayas downstream, you could really see everywhere these makeshift mini firms just being there to create bitcoins, to become rich. Now that is something the Chinese government has then changed. They didn't want to be that center. They didn't really trust the Bitcoin that much, and they didn't want to be part of that kind of the hype. So Bitcoin also never became a formal form of payment. Instead, the government there created their own, let's say, blockchain secured digital yuan as a currency, and is testing this currently in a few cities. I'm not sure how this test is going, because that was already started a few years ago. But during the pandemic, I really don't know how they have pushed through with that. But it's probably an interesting point to research. Now, that's probably only the currency part of that. The other part is, of course, the blockchain technology in terms of really securing product deliveries or contractual things. And here China is very much at the forefront in many areas. You could, for example, the customs documentation between Vietnam and China was completely changed to a blockchain-enabled process. And therefore, you don't have these long lines of trucks there anymore, because it's all electronic, right? They just show a few electronic things, and then they can pass over the border in both directions. So here you see that regulators understood also the opportunities of that technologies and tried to enable this. Also, one of the most expensive liquors in China, the so-called Moutai, is also secured with a blockchain scenario. We have also developed some prototypes for this, because there again, this liquor can be up to $1,000 per bottle, even more. They want to avoid that it gets changed in between in the supply chain and whatsoever. And that's also blockchain secure. So whatever has a very high value, Chinese companies also try to use blockchain technology to make those supply chains really secure. In that
it looks
way,
to me also it's a very practical adoption, I would say, right? So it looks like whenever it makes sense, they're just fast and just do it basically. And like you said with the liquor, for example, if there's a practical use and it has a real use case, then it's there's no shyness of using it.
That's absolutely right. So you see more the concentration on the practical use cases, but relatively strict regulations when it comes to speculation, right? And also partially in NFT with art and so on. Here, you wouldn't see such a huge push, because by the end of the day, here the government always tries to regulate speculation. They kind of are not feeling comfortable with bubbles wherever they are. Housing bubble, it's getting regulated. Everybody can only buy one flat per person, right? Share price bubble, it's getting regulated, right?
I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, for many people, probably in the large scheme of things, it may definitely also make sense to avoid that things overinflate and then burst with a big bang. Right now, if you see, for example, the housing market, it slowly deflates. So I mean, for many people, it's still a dramatic deflation, right? 20% value loss, but it's not going by 80% or whatever.
All right.
Very cool.
Clas, we hit our mark already. We aimed for half an hour. We're way beyond that. I really enjoyed the conversation. With that, I guess it leaves me to thank you for being here.
Thank you, Andreas, and thank you, Sven. Sorry, thank you, Sven.
There's one final remark I just wanted to make. Actually, we have in the stream all the time. Actually, we have this QR code at the top, and I just realized, oh, does it actually make sense? But we're still in this Web3 series, which is not over yet. And we will not have some exclusive content with you in this case, but we have some other exclusive content recorded already, and also in the next few days at the Nordic Blockchain Conference, we'll record some extra content. So with the QR code, you get an NFT with the NFT management solution by SAP. And once you use that SAP, you can unlock exclusive content that you really only can see when you have the NFT. So it still makes sense. And I'm glad that we actually spoke about blockchain and China also a bit towards the end here. Thank you so much.
All right. So with that, thank you once again for being here and for sharing your insights and experiences.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Thank you both.
Perfect.
Has been
Thanks
a
lot.
pleasure.
Have a great day.
Yeah,
thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Copenhagen.